You cannot design a piece of legislation that will defund Obamacare. So the only effective way to truly stop Obamacare, and I think we ought to do it, to stop it, would be totally reverse it. We don't have the votes to do that. But we do have the votes to delay it. But there's no way, according to the Congressional Research Service, that the vast majority of funding can be stopped unless you totally reverse the whole bill.
Can't argue that Tom Coburn's not conservative. The Republican of Oklahoma last week saying that the Tea Party Republicans who are threatening to shut down the government in order to defund Obamacare have the right idea, but he says they're going about it the wrong way, and that may be indicative of a growing split within the GOP. Another possible indication is this man, Matt Bevin. He's a Tea Party Republican running for the U.S. Senate next year because he's unhappy with a certain incumbent for being, in his mind, too bipartisan. Who's the Republican that Bevin is running against? None other than Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell, the very same Mitch McConnell who said his top priority was to make President Obama a one-term president. Very same McConnell whose vision of cooperation in Washington is to make the White House, and this is a quote, move in our direction. And the same Mitch McConnell who called himself the proud guardian of gridlock, apparently not conservative enough for today's Republican Party, at least in Kentucky. Want more evidence? Long Island Congressman Peter King told a conservative website he'd consider a presidential run in 2016, if only to try to beat back the influence of Ted Cruz, Rand Paul extremist element within the GOP.
You know, we are the party of Eisenhower and Reagan, which is believed in strong national defense. Also, I believe the Republicans have managed to cut themselves off from what used to be the old Reagan coalition. You know, the building trade unions, the operating engineers, the construction workers, the cops, the firefighters. We've needlessly antagonized them. So on just two issues, national defense and, you know, reaching out to what I believe are really hardcore workers who should be part of the Republican majority, I am certainly willing to be out there and, you know, be a spokesman and see where this goes.
So here's my question. Can Republican Party, which has been, by all objective measures, moving further and further to the right over the last 30 years, can you unring this bell and bring it back to a more moderate GOP?
Smartest thing I ever did in the Turner campaign was hire Bill. So I'm going to let Bill have this one.
That's two references, by the way, Bill.
I'll just say this about the Tea Party, and I mean this in sympathy to the effort. There are a lot of very good people in this country who are legitimately panicked that we're going bankrupt, that the country is going bankrupt systematically, that we were piling massive debts on our kids.
But there aren't enough of those people to win a national election, Bill.
Yeah, their tactics aren't always good, but I think their hearts are in the right place. I agree with Coburn. I don't think this is the right political move, but there are people who deeply care about the country. They are real patriots, like everyone at this table is. I think they love this country and they see it going over a cliff, and they're panicked and they're acting like it.
Can the party be moved back to a more moderate position?
Yes, the Democrats did it. They went through the same thing. You look at the Democrats, 1968 into the 1970s, people said the party was dead. They never recovered, too many extremists, and you know what? They did. The party's going to recover, but we've known since, some people even say the late 1980s, but it's probably closer to the early 2000s, you know, than the 2008 election, that the party is trying to figure out who it is and who it's going to be going forward, and they have to have time to do that. They absolutely have this divide between the establishment and the people on the ground. There are serious issues and serious concerns on both sides, and they're going to have to decide, just like the Democrats did, do we want to win elections or do we want to make our point? And that's something Democrats have struggled with in the past, and they came through in 2008 and said, you know what, we want to win.
They had the problem actually going back before Clinton.
Absolutely.
With Jesse Jackson, and Clinton's the one that fixed that with DLC.
Dominic, last word?
I agree with what the professor said. You're more optimistic than I am. I just don't see how they pull it back from the extremists.
In time.
Dominic agrees with Jeannie. O'Brien agrees with Bill. There's a lot of agreement on this panel. Up next, which American politician does the American public like the most? The warmth meter is next. Stay with us.